Welcome to part 2 of the 1910s dress and half scale. In this, we're going to be mounting the outer bodice to the foundation lining. If you haven't yet seen the post with the foundation lining, please go back and view that post before moving forward. This is from an original period pattern from the 1910s and is made in the period way. So hang on and we will show you how to make an awesome 1910s dress using original period methods. Okay, you should have 2 outer fronts cut. They're very strange looking pieces. I've labeled which side attaches to what, so it'll make it a lot easier. Trust me, I stared at this for a long time trying to figure out what was going on. So you are going to finish the hems on the center front of this now. So turn under your 3/8 inch seam allowance and then turn it under on the line that's given and hem those to place. Those are ready. The next thing to do is to make the vest ready to attach to the foundation bodice. To do that, I need to get my little vest pieces in my pile of random small parts. There it is. And here's the other one. Okay. So you will face these so that there's no raw edges on the outside curved edge. That should be a finished edge there. I'm going to trim mine and pretend that I have faced it. Slip it underneath the front with the notches even. So you'll see there are 3 notches marked number 4. You're going to match those. Going to baste those into place. I know that you probably don't have those notches visible anymore because you probably turned your hem under. So just to match it up with the bottom edge that you turned under. Okay, so those are attached now. The way that it's going to lap is like this on the front. So you'll have that really cool edge like this. The next thing that we're going to do is pleat the front. That's this part right here. Let me zoom in. You're going to fold on the T and bring it to the I. Sorry, the O. And on the T, bring it to the O. Then you can run your gathering stitches here and here as marked between the double T's. So run your gathering stitches. That's going to attach to your bodice, not yet, but soon. This big piece is the back. We're going to attach it to the front. So that's going to be like this. You see the notches here and the notch there. So I'm going to trim away one side and pretend that I have done my 3/8 seam. You should have a 3/8 extension there. That is for your collar to attach to in a future step. So you see the dotted line, that's for the collar. This part is finished. So it should match at that dotted line. Okay, now the fronts are to the back. We need to attach the sleeve. The sleeve goes here. So we match the notches. Okay, now we have this crazy looking piece. Close the underarm seams. So we are going to be attaching this to this. So you will be putting, obviously, right sides together and doing like this. I'm going to be taping mine. I have attached my underarm seams on the long sleeve, and this side I'm demoing as a short sleeve version. So once it's together, you can see it has this really cool all-in-one piece with the shoulder seam right here. It gives a really interesting shape. It was really iconic of this time period. I've also scrunched together by hand where it would have had you gather. So obviously you're going to run your gathering stitches where it says to do it at the front between the double T's, at the vest at the double T's, and across the back at the double T's, which would be all the way across like this. Next, you would attach your cuff. This is the cuff for the short sleeve, and I need you to notice that there are double dots and there is a single dot, and there is another single dot up here. What they wanted you to do was to match these two notches together and stitch. Let me do it the other way around. Match these two notches together and stitch until this single dot, just from there to there. After that, you could clip that, and then you want to face the whole thing. What's going to happen then is that you're going to have this really cool little scalloped hem, like here. So this part will be attached, and this will be free and make a really cute little scalloped cuff. So let me tape that together and mount that on the short sleeve so you can see. So like that. Very cute. So then these double dots here, you're going to see a double dot on your sleeve. That will match to there. Oh, I've done it inside out. Okay, double dots right there. They're going to match to the double dot on your sleeve. So that single dot will match to the underarm seam here. The double dot will match to the double dot at the other area. So the scallops will be towards the back bodice when you put your little cuff on. And it fits absolutely perfectly, which is great. You can ease it if you need to. The way that they will finish this in the time period is by doing a bias facing on the inside. And I do have a video for how to do a bias facing that you can find in, on my YouTube channel for a different pattern. So for the long sleeve, you have this somewhat rectangular cuff. You're going to stitch the 3/8 inch seam allowance on the notched edge. You're going to sew that together. Then you're going to do the same thing with facing for this piece. You're going to stitch that, turn it to the inside, so this will have no visible seam right there. It will be like a little faced piece. You're going to match this notch to the notch on the bottom of the sleeve. Just slide it right in there. And then you're going to face it with a 3/8 inch or 1/2 inch seam binding towards the inside. So that seam allowance will get turned up towards the inside. You're never going to see that. That will finish the sleeve. So we can see we have both sleeves. This one has a longer cuff like this. The short sleeve has a cuff like this with a cute little scallop on it. So that's that part of the bodice. I skipped a step. We didn't do the collar. So we have this really cool collar. This curved edge attaches to the neckline, and this edge here is going to be finished and faced. So put your collar that you've cut on the fold, right sides together with your facing for the collar, which is also cut on the fold obviously. Seam it 3/8 of an inch all the way around the outside edges. Turn it right side out, press it, make sure those corners here are really nicely turned. And then we have this edge that needs to attach. You're going to match this center back and the notches onto here. So you can see now why this wasn't finished. Your collar is going to attach to these notches. There. Your center back. here. And your other notches, you can baste this into place so that you can ease it around all those curves. Clip your curves where you need to. Remember, the seam allowance for you is 3/8 of an inch. Oh, that was not very, that was clumsily done. Okay, stitch by machine here, all the way around by machine until that other edge. After that, I suggest that you finish this with seam binding, a double fold seam binding. Then turn it to the inside. So this is going to be tricky for me to do because it's on paper. I want you to turn this to the inside, and what this should do is make the 3/8 lap underneath this folded edge, like this. So this all gets turned to the inside. Then stitch this by hand all the way around. So really, this back neck is the only part that gets sewn by machine. The rest of it is going to be basted hand by hand into place and then hand stitched into place so that it won't have visible stitching here at the front. With your collar on, it should look like this. It should all be finished. The only unfinished part of the bodice at this point is going to be the bottom edge. Now we are going to mount this onto the lining. This is the trickier part. So we are going to place the whole thing up inside. I'm going to match my center backs. I think that's probably the best starting point. And this should reach to this line here. Remember, there's going to be a bit of an extension from your blouse lining. And it's okay if it doesn't meet exactly on that line, because like I mentioned earlier, things could definitely shift in this time period. You're not going to want to attach anything by machine until you baste it all on first or pin it all on first. You need to check it because things can look right and not sit exactly right. So there's that. Let's match the side seams next. Of course, you're going to be tacking that by hand to the other side seam. Make sure you mold it over your hand or place it on a dress form to check it, because the shoulder seams, the side seams, everything could sit a little bit differently than what we're used to now. That looks pretty good. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So you're going to notice that none of the edges of your shield are going to be visible. They're all going to be hidden underneath here, right? The next part is going to be to gather this all into place. These dots should mark center front. You're going to need a little bit of space here. When you do yours, you might actually want to leave this section unattached because you need to make sure that you can button it into place. So you may need to use hooks and eyes right here at the front instead of stitching. I'm just going to have to try it on and see what needs to happen. And there should be a little bit of gathering there at the vest, and then this part will of course be gathered as well. Let me mess with this a little bit and then I'll show you what it looks like when I've got it better. Here it is pretty much in place, matched through that bottom line. It looks pretty good all the way around. Now I am really going to suggest, after messing with this, that you don't attach the front vest yet. Leave this free because you need to be able to get into the front, and that means having to get underneath this part to snap it in place. So you may find that you need to leave it free all the way until the dart maybe, so that you can layer your snaps under here and wiggle up in here to close the shoulder and the back. So a way to do that, I'll show you after we get the skirt. But basically this whole piece will snap and hook an eye across, so the skirt will attach here, and then you will hook an eye here across, so this whole piece will be movable and all the way around until the side seam will be stationary. Let me explain this one more time. You need to be able to reach underneath here and fasten, like we saw before, the shield, the shoulder, and the neck into place. That means you're going to need to leave this free all the way until the underarm here. You'll probably need to finish the seam in some way because it's going to be visible on the inside. So I would suggest using a seam binding or something, finishing it by hand, whipping it, doing something, because you're going to need to be able to get underneath there. You'll need to pull it back, which obviously it'll be easier to do than in the paper, because you're going to have to get up into the shoulder to snap the shoulder, and you're going to need to get to the back neck, so you can open it there, unsnap it there, and get into your front, like we mentioned before. So this whole section of the bodice, from here all the way around to this side seam, can be attached by machine. Now, this part where we had our gathering and all that, do not attach it by machine yet. You can make your gathering stationary so you know how big it's supposed to be, but do not attach this half to this yet. We're going to attach to the skirt. In part 3, we'll show how to attach the skirt to the bodice, so please subscribe to my channel, view my other videos, and you can find this pattern on wearinghistory.clothing or wearinghistory.etsy.com. Thank you so much for watching.